Probably.
All right, I'll wait another minute or two because I won't be able to admit people if I'm not paying attention. And there's a, so we're going to answer we're going to answer questions. And then I want Nicole and Lauren. I'll let Lauren talk first because she said she had kids might grab her and steal her away. Both seed related announcements. All right, well, welcome to, if I could share my screen, this would be the really challenging part. Welcome, everybody. This will be our, you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it.
I don't know how to maximize the screen all the way, so that's good. You have to deal with it.
All right.
This will be our session 20. Wow. So whoever asked that question, we're going to have 19 other ones to look at. As we know, spring is coming, but it is interesting because I remember last year, and I think Nicole had the same problem, and a lot of people did because it was coronavirus is hitting around now, and the weather was very nice, and everyone went really crazy and started thinking that summer was starting and planting everything, but starting way too early. So you have, even though it's very nice, it's probably not going to stay this nice for a lengthy period of time. So we're going to discuss that a little bit tonight. And Sarah really shared some really great, planting dates. I think I might have that, but I'll try to see if I could share that as well. So real quick, before she leaves, I want to introduce Lauren. What's your Stemler is your last name?
Yes. Well, Graf is my married
Oh, Graf,
name.
sorry. And I'm really glad. I wish you would have told me you were attending. I would have posted your thing that Lauren is working with the Albert Wisner Library, and she's starting a seed saving catalog, seed saving collection. So if you want to just talk about that real briefly,
Sure.
I'll let you, because I think it's really so exciting and amazing, and I hope you all guys want to partake in it. So.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I didn't give you any notice up front.
No, don't worry.
I was just hoping the kids would allow me to do it.
I'm gonna stop sharing so they can see you. There you go. Sorry.
Hey.
Continue.
Yeah, so the Albert Wisner Public Library is going to have a seed library, and they're accepting seed donations now. You can just drop them off at the library. They have a temporary piece of furniture they're going to be using. And I'm hoping, I spoke with them last week over email, that hopefully May 1st, it should be open to take seeds from. But you can bring seeds in now, and they're going to start organizing it.
And you just want to say real briefly, like what the full concept of this is that we share, to people share, to have kind of a basis, just to people understand what that is exactly?
Yeah, so well, the idea is that you would donate seeds, and then people take the seeds, and then they bring seeds back every year. And then there's a lot of rules based on what kind of plants. There are some rules, but I know the Warwick Valley Gardeners, I think we're going to do some things over the summer on seed saving. And there are some really great things online as well on how best to save seeds. But yeah, so it's hopefully good for the planet, good for our community, and just a great little thing, I thought, to have at the library.
Thank you all. Does anyone have any questions for Lauren before, just in case she has to leave, or?
Yes. So Lauren, is this only seeds that people have collected from their own gardens, or are you also looking for donations of commercial seed packets?
Right now, we're taking everything. And I've spoken with several other seed libraries, and they kind of do the same. I know like the Prairie Moon Nursery donated a bunch of seeds for me, a lot of native plants. I know High Mowing Seeds also does donate. So yeah, we're taking anything and everything just to kind of get it going.
Okay.
I know
do you have a cutoff expiration date you want?
As long as they're viable. I mean, but I figured just to get it started and going.
Anything.
Thank you.
Oh, you go, look at this. You want to share the spotlight?
Yeah.
Now, also, so I mean, the concept, obviously, I'm not gonna go there. I shouldn't go there and grab like 300 seeds, obviously, just a reasonable amount, and then
Yeah.
hopefully leave. Hopefully it'd be a reciprocal type thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there will be a limit. I don't know what they decided on. Anywhere from 5 to 10 at a time, I'm thinking. But yeah, I saw it at a little library in Cape Cod, the Sturgis Library, and I just thought it was a really great thing. And then I've done a lot of research since then. So I just think it would be something that would kind of take off here.
Absolutely. Oh, and I think it's a really wonderful idea, and I'm glad you joined, and I hope you join our community as far as local
Yeah.
growers, and I would like to do the same thing at the Greenwood Lake
Yes.
Library.
Yeah, I work at Greenwood Lake Elementary School, so it's right across the street. I'd love for it to be there and have the students
Exactly.
involved
And,
somehow.
hopefully we all doing this in all libraries.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really great. And if anyone wants to help out or join in, that would be awesome.
All right.
So where do you go
oh.
to, I have a question. Sorry, Chad.
No, go ahead.
So where do you go to either drop off or pick up? Like what part of the library, or do they know at the help desk?
Yeah, I would think Lori Engel is the contact at the library. So if you call the library, I think it's extension 3, I want to say. She's at the help desk, but I think you can just drop them off at circulation, like when you first go in. We talked about having different places to drop off, either outside or inside, depending on what people felt comfortable with during COVID. But I know they're definitely accepting donations inside.
Well, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
next, also, I know I'm breaking all of Michael's rules, but he's not here now, so we don't have to know. This is a little bit of our agenda, if I could show that. We usually do Q&A first. We're gonna talk about bed prepping, spring timing, announcements. But again, before we start, I do want to, while we have someone else here, Nicole Hickson, this is I just want to show briefly what she's, well, I guess you could talk over your image if you want to, Nicole.
Sure, no problem. I decided to host a seed swap. We have talked about it, so many people, and I figured why not just do it? The date has passed to register, but it's still time to send the seeds in if you wanted to play. You have until like I think, did I do the 14th? I can't see it. Yep, March 14th. And several people, like Lauren, right, has participated. And I've been collecting seeds. So basically you will make 25 packets of seeds, and they can be all the same or all different, doesn't matter. And then you send them to me and I will collect them all, and you'll get 25 random packets of seeds back from other people that are playing in the swap. So it's like
So it's like exciting, like, you don't know what you're gonna get. It's very cool.
Oh, cool.
It's like Christmas morning, if your Christmas morning was like that with seeds.
So I'm very excited about all these new initiatives, and they're all local, and they're all starting all about seed, because it all starts with seeds, obviously. It's very important. Well, thank you, Nicole and Lauren. All right, now we're going to get to the first question. I don't know who sent this, but it was a while ago. Hopefully the person is here now. Is anyone here now who said what's happening with this tree? Otherwise, people could just kind of chime in.
Yeah, I did. Hi.
Hi. Oh, how you doing?
How are you? I'm Cindy.
How you doing, Cindy? So hopefully someone could tell Cindy do you know what type of tree that is? Because it's such a close up, or
No, I don't know what kind of tree it is. I think I figured it out, but I think it might be a polyeded woodpecker. But I had been up here and I just couldn't figure it out. And it goes really high up the tree as well. So it's not just the base.
What
Oh,
I've been
has an idea.
noticing lately is that looks like an ash tree, and I know that there's beetles that are infesting a lot of ash trees, and a lot of them in the area are dying because of that. The woodpeckers, normally they have like big gaping holes, because I had one in my yard, and it actually took an entire like foot section of a branch off. But I think that happened, in my parents' yard in Monroe. And from what I believe, it's like some kind of beetle infestation.
Hey, it's
Very
Mary
strange. It
here.
looks like it's chiseled off and then all the droppings are like around it. It's weird.
I actually, I live in Forest Knolls. It's Mary, and there's a tree at the Old Town Beach that has the exact same, like peeling off, and like it looks exactly like that. I have pictures of it too. And I talked to someone and they said it might be a porcupine, but I don't know if that's accurate.
So we don't see, right?
I've seen some pretty tall trees with it and it goes to like, maybe 25 feet up the tree.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, probably not a
Yeah.
porcupine then.
I don't know porcupines. I'm sure they can climb a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know a lot about porcupines.
No, I don't either.
If there are beetles underneath, it's probably woodpeckers trying to get at the beetles, and they're just
Exactly.
knocking off the bark to get at the grubs.
Exactly, or the larva, and it could
Yeah,
be,
larva.
could it be an ash borer, and it's the beetles and the larva, and then the woodpeckers are going after the larva.
Yeah, the beetles. Yeah, and the larvae.
Yeah.
Possible.
I believe the ash borer is like this crazy neon green. I am not absolutely sure, but that's what comes to mind. It's like this crazy, it's actually very pretty, but they kill trees horribly.
Would the
Well, all right,
ash
so-
borer be active this time of year?
But I don't know if the ash borer would be active, but
Right.
if it laid larva in the tree, the woodpeckers, I've had that happen with carpenter bees on my deck and things, if there are larvae in there, the woodpeckers go after them. So
Oh, yeah,
even if the beetles aren't active, they could
Right.
lay, I don't know where we are in the life cycle of the ash borer, but at some point they lay eggs and
Right.
the larvae become active. And even if they're not active, the birds, I mean, they're pretty good at knowing what's under there.
Yeah.
They go for it.
No, I know I had old maple trees and the woodpeckers loved my trees until that particular tree got ill enough that it had to come down, and then a lot of the woodpeckers left. But if you have yeah.
Yeah, well, I have one that's really ugly outside, but I went, you know what? He's happy and he comes to visit, so I'm good.
Judging by what I'm reading online, the ash borer leaves a little trail. So like if you get close to the tree and actually look at the tree where the bark, like if any bark is falling away, there will be, like you can see where the worms are eating the tree under the bark if you have a spot that's exposed where the bark is falling off. But that seems like the only way to actually confirm if that's specifically ash borer damage.
I'll check it out more closely.
And that
Thank
almost
you.
looks like spaghetti under the bark.
Yeah.
Right? The way it's, yeah.
Yes, that's accurate.
Thank you. Some,
It'll look like
hope
Chef Boyardee.
Yes.
Well, thank you
for
so
the
much.
responses. Hopefully you guys are not correct, but it could be. And I believe this is from Mary, right? About the carrots.
Yes.
You want to read your question?
So I actually bought carrot seeds this year, and I've never grown them before, but I heard they're really hard to grow. And I know like Greenwood Lake soil isn't going to be the best for it, but I was wondering if anyone had advice growing them from seeds.
Nobody here.
Well,
I grew some carrots last year in my raised garden bed. But I had my dad gave me like the So Easy carrot seeds, and they were pretty easy. I just left them all year. They weren't ready, I don't think, until about October, but they got pretty decent sized. They were buried. They probably went down about 6 or 7 inches. I really didn't do anything with them though. I gave them a little bit of water every now and then. That's it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I was reading things online that said they're really hard to grow, but I think maybe it's because they like the soil needs to be completely like moist and it can't move at all because the seeds like
Okay.
you don't like put them on, you don't bury them, you just like put them on top of the dirt.
Yeah, it was my first time doing it, and I actually buried them about 1 inch, and I just left them. and they did pretty well, surprisingly.
That's good.
I have no idea what I'm doing though.
We've grown tomatoes in the community, carrots in the community garden. I mean, the thing with root crops is you have to have prepared your soil so that it's fairly, dug down fairly deep. A lot of people don't, when they start out, they don't make their bed deep enough because it's a root crop. So you want to turn it over really well. And if you don't have, fairly loose soil, you want to put some additives in because, the little skinny sprout turns into a root. So you need loose soil. They take quite a while. Usually if you buy the type of seed that produces a shorter carrot rather than a longer carrot around here, seems to be more successful. And I just put them in thick because they're teeny tiny seeds. So I just put them in, and then the other thing you have to do is thin them. It's like when you plant beets. You put them in, but then after they're up about 2 or 3 inches or so, you need to go through and thin them out. Because if they're too packed together, there's no room for the root to expand.
Okay. Yeah. So you you thin out the weaker ones, right?
Right.
I've always had a hard time starting them. Right? Don't they really have to be moist for the first few weeks or something like that? Or even I don't know if this.
That's the whole. Everything needs moisture at first. So if you have a dry spring when you're planting things, you have to go out there and water them enough so that they'll sprout. That's why when we have a damp spring, all those green crops do really well. Because usually you lose track of all that endless watering. But once you get them going, I mean, they still have to have water, but you leave them alone for a long time. The good news is not that many pests, but if you find a caterpillar on them, the eastern swallowtail butterfly happens to like carrots. So I've had eastern swallowtails move into the carrot crop, and it's really cool. They'll grow, they won't really hurt the plant that much, and you'll have butterflies. So
I agree with what Chad said about keeping the ground moist until they sprout. That's everything that I've heard. My first round of carrots is still in the container. I'm growing them in a pot, and I started them late, and they're a long range crop, like a long time. So I cut back the greens before the big snow came, and I still have snow because I'm on top of the mountain. So I'm going to dig them out when it warms up later this week, and maybe I'll have big carrots, but the greens were looking really nice. Another thing I heard is that you don't want to amend your soil for carrots with a lot of stuff that promotes green. Like you want to cut back on the nitrogen and add more, that like root booster.
Right.
Thanks.
One other thing that I use on occasion, particularly in the spring, is the row cover. I plant the carrots and I put the row cover on it, and it keeps the soil moister. And so you take it off after they germinate, but while they're germinating, it does keep it, it helps them to germinate.
Yes, moisture definitely seems to help them germinate, is everything that I am hearing.
And with carrots too, I agree with everything that everybody just said. I think one of the tricks is to make sure that the soil is definitely moist before you're putting any seeds down, because you are going to do a light surface sow with them. So if you go to water the soil afterwards, they're just going to go to the lowest point altogether. And then you're going to have to thin out like a big heavy spot. I've seen people, I think preparation is definitely important with carrots as well. Carrots are very lazy, and that's oftentimes why you see them in such weird growth patterns, because if they hit a rock, they'll just like make a left turn and grow around that rock. So you want it to be really sandy kind of soil where they don't have to fight, and they can just tap root straight down and you can get more straight carrots. Those are some of the things that I've heard.
Agreed. If you have anything in your soil that is like, even like anything like a little pebble or stick, they're going to deviate and fork.
Yeah, I
So-
was
Yeah.
definitely thinking raised beds with, and like making my own dirt mix without the rocky Greenwood Lake soil.
It's a good call. I've also seen people put boards down, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say that worked for me one year.
yeah, so a lot of the times, like if you prep that soil, you mend it, you're gonna put some sand in there, it's just gonna be really light. The carrot's not gonna have to fight through anything, and it's moist, and then you just lightly sow. People will then just put boards down and leave them there for a couple of weeks until they just start to germinate, and it'll help keep that moisture down. And then you just take the board off.
Right, well, I guess like, Bill was saying, that's a different form of row cover, obviously, thicker one. And now also part 2 was any creative planter ideas. Maria, you must have some.
I'm thinking. It was a long day. I mean, I had that idea for the vegetable washing station. I mean, I see a lot of people doing stuff with pallets. I know that my dad had tried that at one of the community gardens that he does. And I think it dried out really, really quick. So there would need to be a way to keep it moist.
People line them. I've seen them lined.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even in like the dry summer heat, those just dry out so quick.
I agree with what she said. And also I ended up growing out of a pallet, and I was really displeased because when you get into the height of summer in August, they're confined in this pallet. And unless you've like really spread them out, they're like all up on each other. So I ran into a lot of issues with the pallet, not to mention, yeah, it's wood, which brings in slugs. So like the slugs have an automatic little hiding nook so that they can hide out during the day. And then at night, it's like they just come right out and can get to your plants. You got to like set slug traps.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things that would have to be worked out. I like pallets and I love the look of reusing pallets and everything. But there would need to be a way to keep the pests out and keep it moist.
Yeah. I mean, Mary, basically, I think anything could be a planter. You could use a rowboat, a bathtub, any type of, you could be as creative as you want, as long as it holds soil, has something that lets the water out. And, I've seen people, you can go on Pinterest or anything, YouTube, and you see like thousands of types of planters. So, I think that's literally as much as your imagination could take you, I believe. All right, let me see if I could do this. If I don't get to, oh, Michael Helms joining. You guys tell him I did a good job, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Awesome.
I survived. I almost couldn't even log in the beginning, so that's pretty good. Oh, and it's perfect timing because he told me to wait for him for his question. Do you want to jump right into your question, Michael, or?
Just a second there.
Oh, sir, I'll give you a moment. All right, let me see. Yeah, because I also.
Oh, I see. You're sharing the screen.
Yes.
Let me.
Oh, do you want me to give you the hosting ability? I know how to do that.
No.
I was trying to also, Sarah sent me some really great resources as far as, while Mike is setting up. A big thing with now is when to start a seed, because as I said, I think Nicole started it way too early last year. I did as well. Like all my stuff was bursting out by the time it was ready to plant. So the frost date is May 15th, which is later than most people think it is.
2 months away.
And I better not stop touching that. Yeah, she said, maybe we could share that later with our notes, but Sarah sent me some really good resources for, when to plant, almost anything you have. So that was very useful. May 15th, we had as the frost date, and putting in warm weather stuff. Again, we've had different discussions, but we're just like, some people say Mother's Day. I think that's too early to put, tomatoes and cucumbers in. I would say, even late June.
If we end up, I have the PDF file, so if we figure out how to share it, that one pager I sent you from Cornell basically tells you everything you ever wanted to know about when to put seeds in around here. It's just a confusing chart. And then I have the links to Johnny's, because there's a couple components to it depending on, it's the last frost date, but then there's the type of plant. So anyway, we can share this. It's a good resource.
Yeah, it was very helpful because I was driving myself a little crazy because it seems like everyone's starting at different times.
They
I know
are.
someone started tomatoes like 2 weeks ago. I was like, isn't that way too early? But
Yeah,
so
it is.
I
No,
was
I made
confused.
that mistake last year. You're absolutely right. But you know what? I will start my peppers again right now, because I had started my peppers last year around this time and they were beautiful going out. Some of them had some flowers on them and I had multiple bountiful crops all summer long. That's probably the only thing that I would start for my spring garden now, or summer.
Right, Nicole's house in July is pretty much covered. You can't walk, right? You have like June, July, you have tomatoes, peppers
It's
everywhere.
bountiful. It's my favorite time of the year in the garden, right? It's what we gear up for.
No, I remember last year you showed like during the Zoom thing, like her living room, her kitchen, there was like giant tomato plants everywhere.
My problem was last year was like the first year I started big time in abundance, and I counted back from too early. I was going to try to plant for Mother's Day outdoors, but we were talking with Chris Harrison and going forward now, especially seeing so many of my friends losing their plants last year who did plant around Mother's Day, I will not be planting until like Memorial Day going forward now. That's
we had that late,
back, but I was counting back too early.
But peas can go in early, right? Peas, St. Patrick's Day, we're going to be out there chipping through the last bit of the ice out there and getting our peas in the ground. St. Patrick's Day, is people up for that or no?
Probably not this year.
You know, last year I got mine in March 10th. I'm not even going to get the ice out of the garden by March 10th.
Yeah, yeah, depending on how the melt goes this weekend, because the weather keeps saying it's going to be like in the 60s, but I have yet to break 40 degrees here. So if it warms up like they say it's gonna, maybe I'll put stuff in the ground like peas or lettuce or kale, like brassicas, stuff that likes the cold. But if the ground isn't thawed enough for me to stick anything in there, then I'm kind of just at the mercy of the elements.
Yeah, I would try maybe peas, but I wouldn't put that other stuff just yet.
You have to, this time of year, you know, whatever weather app you use, it's your best friend. Like I can tell you now, it's going to be 50, 60 this week, and it looks like you should go out and plant everything. And then if you go into next week, we're back in the rain, snow showers, and it's below freezing every night. So you need it's also soil temperature.
Yeah.
Just because you can get into the soil doesn't mean something will germinate.
You know, if you're willing to protect things, when you put them out.
Oh yeah.
Or if you have cold frames or an unheated greenhouse,
row cover,
you can ignore all of the times and just do it because things will be protected.
Agreed.
So you know, you can put stuff out early. If you have wire hoops and you can put plastic over it when it gets really cold, no problem.
Absolutely. But I'm talking about straight out in, you know, in the ground.
That's a good thing.
May. I would say May.
Share my screen.
You want to share the screen? Okay. Oh, could you let you share your screen?
Yeah, I have an image related to that topic.
Oh, how do I do that? Come on, I just figured out my stuff.
Go to my name on the participants list.
Oh, wait, hold on.
And from more.
Oh, wait, what did I just do?
Why is this not going in?
Why do I not see? I'm clicking on your name.
And then is there more next to that? Sorry, folks, for the.
Oh, crap. Should I make you host? That make it easier?
That would work.
Here you go. All right, I survived. Yay. All right, you're the host.
So I'm going to ask this question, and then I think it's time for the shimmy in place, although I just got here. But so you can see this is the same thing. This was our fig plant last summer. There's a couple of them there. And it actually had just it's only been there a couple of years. It had a couple immature figs. We had a smaller one that had a couple dozen figs this year. And with these, every winter they're going to die back, but you try to save as much of them as possible so that if they just grow completely from root, you won't get that many figs, is what I've heard. So you try to save as much as possible. So I built this straw bale house. We cut it back some. And when I built this straw bale house around there, and probably if you look close, you can see where the squirrels and the mice have been going in and out.
Hey, you made a little home for them.
Yeah, so on the one hand, I've got that going on. It was a home for the squirrels and the mice. On the other hand, we didn't have any mice inside our house this winter. So that was a good deal. I didn't know if it's related or not, but my question is, for something like this, or let's say I've got an asparagus patch that I want to it's mulched deep for the winter. What's the timing on when to take this down? Like if I take it down now and then there's like a hard freeze in the middle of April, is it going to, so that's the question. And I'm going to stop sharing to hear answers. But I think this is a general question too. Other things like, if you've got a deeply mulched asparagus bed, at what point do you take the mulch off and let it start warming up, or like that?
I would wait until May to take it down completely. And even then you might still have some because of how our weather is, but it's a fig. So I got to figure that it'll tolerate the heat better than it'll tolerate the cold. So like if you can air it out on warm days and air it out, but be prepared to pack it back up.
I'm going to disagree on that. I've had fig trees most of my life. Our, I guess, loose rule of thumb is we cover in November around Thanksgiving and we uncover sometime in April. It's an arid climate native, and remarkably enough, it can survive a couple of frosts. It won't be bad if it's uncovered, but that's my father's tree in his house that they've been at now. I got it for him maybe like a decade ago. And that's pretty much what we do. And I will say there have been certain years he did not cover it and she still survives through the winter.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to defer to Nicole because I've never had a fig ever.
Where's your father's house, Nicole?
My parents are on Long Island, but our first one was in Queens. I'm from Queens.
Yeah, they're actually a different gardening zone than us.
Yeah, that's a 7.
Well, I was 6B over there. I was 6B with my dad, so it's not that far off. And it's really just the dates, it's like 2 weeks either way, right?
Okay, but how did you cover it? What did you do for covering?
Burlap and a tarp. And there's absolutely mice that run up and come through. I've also gone back and pruned it, like that picture that you showed of what it looked like. And I know you said that there were multiple trees there. When you say that, did you plant multiple trees or are you just getting multiple shoots that are arriving now?
No, they're like 2 trees there.
So I've pruned back significantly now because every year you should be doubling your harvest of figs. And it gets pretty hairy very quickly. And you want to make sure that you can get in there before the wasps get in there, before the squirrels are attacking, because the minute, fig leaves are enormous. So the minute all that density of later in the summer comes and fruit rotting on the vine, it becomes a losing battle. So I really kind of prune back now and prune high so that I can see, and it still takes off. I mean, there's like hundreds of figs. It's out of control.
I didn't take pictures of before we packed in the straw bale house, but basically we'd cut it down so it was only like 2 or 3 feet high. There were just, and that was based on in previous years. By the time the winter came, there was nothing left above ground, basically.
Nothing. Oh yeah, no, there's just a bunch of, like, it looks atrophied, right? There's like a bunch of twigs just hanging up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can help though if you want one day. I love our fig tree. We love figs in my family. We're big.
And do you have them in your yard here in Warwick?
No, I don't. I'm worried about the deer. I would love to take a piece of my father's fig tree, but I can't imagine getting to it before the animals do. How does your yard do with them?
Well, we've got the deer fence, and they're inside the deer fence. And somehow we just got them to them before the squirrels did.
It's great. They used to taunt us, like running across the top, eating them on the on the fences.
I really think we should do the shimmy in place thing now. I think everyone's been here a little bit too long, but I do want to say one thing. A couple summers ago, I was at the Florida Farmers Market and got a jar of fig jam. And the next week I went back and I was asked, that fig jam was really good, but it had tasted to me like there's maybe a little bit of mint in there. Was that true? And she said, no, it's just straight fig. And I said, that must have been a figment of my imagination.
Oh.
On that note, I think we should do the shimmy in place now.
Yeah, on that we need a break. We need a break after that one.
You're so
funny. Funny.
I'm gearing up right now to watch a master class with Ron Finley. Did anybody watch his master class series? Yeah. I'm excited about it.
What's that about?
I saw it. He mainly discusses, he doesn't discuss gardening as much as making use of space to have a garden. If that makes any sense. And what kind of found objects you can use in that garden, but he doesn't speak to gardening specifically. Just how to have a garden in a small place and to use your imagination is basically the upshot of the whole show.
I've been waiting to watch it. I'm excited about it. He gardens in South Central LA.
What's shimmy in place?
Oh, shimmy in place is if you sit for an hour, it's really not good for your health. So we like to stand up halfway through and you sort of shimmy wherever you are, preferably off camera for most of us. But basically it's a chance to stand up and move around. Nicole's son sometimes leads us in that. He's really good at that. Shimmy and constant shimmy. He's
the master of movement, Auden.
Well, we've got a few announcements. One thing is, we got to talking that in the past, Chad and Sarah and I have sort of been steering the garden plot, and then we came to deciding, we asked somebody else to join our little group. And we also had a little discussion and decided that instead of having a steering committee, we should have a plotting committee for the Zoom garden plot. So Michelle Dunn has agreed to join our plotting committee. And if others want to participate in that, just let us know. And we're happy to have, the more the merrier. That would be great.
Welcome.
Now, and thank you to Michelle for agreeing to do that, and for Chad and Sarah for all their ongoing efforts. Did we all agree that we would meet the second and fourth Mondays of the month, right? So not this month. We're only having one meeting in March. We're all holding our horses. We're not planting early, except for a few peas maybe. And then, so our next meeting will be the second Monday of April, and we'll start meeting twice a month in April. So it'll be the second and fourth Mondays of the month if you want to mark those off on your calendar. And when we get later,
likes that.
When we get later into the gardening season, we will shift to later at night so that you can spend more time in the early evening hours outside. Oh yes, community solar is not a scam. Is there anyone here who doesn't have solar and also doesn't have community solar?
I don't.
I don't.
So there are a lot of people.
I don't.
Chad's group, Sustainable Warwick is starting what we're calling the Triple Win campaign. It's the Sustainable Warwick win-win-win community solar campaign. It's good for the environment. It's good for the customer who signs up. And also if you sign up, you can have a donation made on your behalf to one of the local nonprofits. And I specifically mentioned it tonight because Chad there of Grow Local Greenwood Lake, they're one of the groups that will get the money. So you save money if you sign up for community solar. And also if you do it through Chad's group, he'll get you'll get a $100 sign-up bonus, and Chad will get $100 for running his organization. We have 6 nonprofits that are doing this. 5 of them are decided, and one of them is Chad's group. So also like Family Central, the Community Center, other groups like these, Safe Space America, they're all signed up for this, and they're working with different companies. And so we hope that a lot of people will see, oh yeah, community solar, it's a good idea, especially if you know anybody who's running a little bit low on money these days. Really like to see them, saving the 10% on their electric bill and getting the sign-up bonus, and then they can also show some love to Chad's group or one of the other ones.
Yeah, and I happen to be a member of Solstice, and it's a really good deal. My electric bills have been much lower. You get 10% off your electric bill at least, and it's I was skeptical as well. So I'm from Brooklyn, so I don't trust anyone.
If you have questions about community solar, I can help answer them, or we have others from Sustainable Warwick who might answer for you. Did anyone see the New York Times article on prison inmates growing their food and cooking from scratch?
No.
It was a really good article.
It was a good article, and they pointed out that they feed prisoners like the cheapest food they can get, and it's very low quality food, and it's hard for anybody to socio-emotionally behave well on that kind of diet, as one might imagine. And so they had a place where they had this program. It was actually costing the prison less for the prisoners to grow all their own food and cook all their own food. And of course, it was much better all around. So a few of us have too many plates. We all have too many plates in the air. A few of us were kind of starting to talk about, could we do that at the Orange County, prison, the one over there by the emergency center? If anyone has any interest in that topic, please send us an email about that. Please check in with us. And then our book club, well, somebody has mentioned this book for our book club. It's called Nature's Best Hope by Doug Tallamy. His basic idea is that we can't wait for the government. Residents should start wilding their lawns and all of their yard space. There's a book about this. Our book club is considering reading it as a monthly selection. Is there anyone here who might be interested in joining us for that read, whether or not you can make the book club or not, or yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Very good. So I'll pass that along to members of the book club. And then what's next? What's the next slide here? Oh.
Well, sorry. Also, don't forget Bill and Shannon didn't get to do their update.
Oh, I didn't know they were doing updates, but okay, great.
Oh, no. Well, you had that at the beginning of your announcements. I'm just following your orders.
Okay.
You say Shannon, do you mean me?
Yeah, it said, I think they had you in the beginning.
Actually, Chad, that was a hidden slide. I leave it there, so next month we'll use it, but not this time. So you saw it, but it doesn't show in the presentation.
Got that. Doesn't exist.
The only thing left I have next is perennial vegetables. Did we already discuss? I'm sorry, I'm late, folks. Did we already discuss prepping beds for spring?
No, we took a while. We took a while answering questions, and then we had a girl, Lauren, who was announcing the seed library, and Nicole was talking about her seed swap. So we didn't get around to that yet, but we could definitely talk about that now. We could do perennial vegetables next time.
I think that I read something somewhere where you should wait until it's consistently 50 degrees to give the pollinators a chance to wake up and not be exposed. So I'm gonna wait until May because I can, but I understand if people can't wait.
I'm in the same school. I'm not planning on touching anything and letting whatever life is working its way, ecosystem in the garden, to kind of live out its expectancy. I can wait, and I'm gonna. I don't know. Is anybody not doing that?
Well, are you talking about perennial beds or vegetable beds?
Vegetable beds.
I don't know. I mean, in the garden I run, the vegetable beds are cleared out in the fall. There's a few things that are left. If there's enough snow melts this weekend, we're going to go over and rip up anything that died, all the other things that died. There's some spinach that I think is growing under a row cover still. That'll stay. Everything else is coming out. We'll start hooking up the irrigation system again, and we'll start turning the beds and adding compost to the beds, so that hopefully in another week or two, if we get, some decent warm days, then we'll be putting the peas in. And some of the cold weather crops will start going in the end of March, beginning of April, depending on, what happens with the weather. So no, to me, there's a lot to do this time of year. It's the heavy labor part of the year. I mean, I don't uncover my flower beds at home because it's too early. I have, lilies and hostas, those I leave, but the vegetable garden, it's ready to work on as far, to me.
Bill, I'm sure you're starting up too, right?
Yeah, I'm planting into my greenhouse outside. I mean, the greenhouse is producing like crazy right now, but there's some empty spots. So I'm putting new plants in there, spinach, lettuce, some Chinese vegetables and stuff like that. I'm also getting my cold frames going again. So I have brassicas, lettuce, spinach, escarole, and that stuff I'm hardening off right now. And it's going to go into the cold frame probably within a week or so. And so I'm going to do all of that gardening now. I'm not going to put anything unprotected out in the garden right now because it's the weather is too variable to do that unless you're willing to protect it.
I keep my garden going pretty consistently unless I'm under 4 feet of snow, which I was through February. So like, for example, I'm going out, I'm going to dig up some carrots if it actually is 60 degrees later this week, but I'm going to put back the leaf cover on top of that, depending on how the carrots look. And I'm going to put the row cover back over everything because I know for a fact there are bees in there hibernating. And I'm not going to break that thing apart until I know that they are safe out and about on their own. Same with ladybug larvae. There's definitely ladybug larvae wrapped up in my stuff from overwintering. So my setup is such that I can't take it apart until they are ready. But that's my setup. I'm sure everybody's setup's very unique to them.
There are some things I like to start early, like the easy stuff like peas and radishes.
I concur.
Yeah, I know Shannon's a big radish fan, so
yeah, they'll grow anywhere.
I guess what I'm learning tonight is that I should just pick a couple beds for those, but everything else sort of let go until later.
Invest in some row cover because your stuff will love the row cover when it's cold. It kind of gives you that security to do things that you can't just throw in the ground without protection right now.
And the peas that everybody's talking about growing right now, are you going to succession sow these peas? Like, are these like quick kind of like spring peas we're talking about?
They should sprout within 10 days, theoretically, under the right circumstances. They as far as I knew, peas are pretty quick.
I've planted them what I would call too early, and the germination hasn't been good because they still need a certain soil temperature. And if you get a cold and wet spell, some of them will rot. I'm in a different situation because there's a community garden with a number of people in it. And sometimes we do things when it might not be the best time because people are eager to do something. So I'm willing to plant some things in maybe a smaller amount, and they either make it or they don't, just for the sake of a group situation, which is different from having your own yard. But I will put in peas in, say, maybe 2 successions. First one as early as it seems good to plant, and then I'll wait a couple weeks and put another one in. I don't want to do more than 2 successions because they take a fair amount of room, and that bed is going to have something else in it when it's time for the warm weather crops to come in. So I can't let the peas hang out, forever, but you can definitely put in 2 crops.
When you say that the first time when it's good to plant, what kind of weather are you did say St. Patrick's Day peas, right? Didn't I hear peas for St. Patrick's Day before?
That's the tale. That's the old wives' tale theory, peas for St. Patrick's Day. But this time of year, the weather is up and down all over the place, and every spring is different. So you just have to get at your what are those wands they used to find water with? You have to one of those to garden with.
Yeah, I think you should plant peas as early as possible, as early as the soil can be worked.
Right.
Because if the weather is cool, they'll just take longer to germinate. But at least you have them in there, and you can put something over them like row cover to warm them a little bit more to get them to germinate quicker. And the other thing, the peas are sensitive to heat. And so if you don't get them in early,
right.
Any peas that you have going into July are just going to get burnt up.
Oh yeah,
you got to get them in pretty early.
Right. We grow the tall ones, the sugar snaps, and I grow them on a trellis. So I like row covers, and I use row covers for a lot of things, but the practicality of using row cover a lot in this type of garden becomes a little iffy. But I mean, if you have your own garden, yes, use row cover everywhere.
Especially if your peas are only 6 inches high. If they're still.
Mine are. They're 6 or 7. I grow the ones that are about 6 feet high.
But like we're talking about, you plant your peas, and as soon as the soil can be worked, and in April it gets cold, and they're still not that high. So row cover is more, once they get up the trellis, then row cover would be.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I use the row cover just in the beginning. I mean, I don't use it later on, just to get them started, and also to protect them. Sometimes when peas are starting to come up, you'll get blackbirds come, and as they're sprouting, they'll pull them up and get the peas from underneath. And the row cover keeps that from happening. So there's a certain protection that you get when they're very small from the row cover as well. And then I just remove the row cover.
All right. Maybe that's where my peas went.
And so by the time you're ready to pull the peas out, like the first succession of them, are you then planting something else in its place, or are you doing another set of peas right at that time, trying to get in before the heat comes?
No, I'm saying you start your first group of peas as early as you can put them in. Then in a different location, like maybe 2 weeks later, you start another group of peas.
Okay.
So by the time your peas start to produce, you're going to have, a solid period of time where you have a good pea harvest. And then they're all going to come out, and they're going to plant something else.
A quick question, Sarah. When do you clear those peas out entirely? By what point? I always feel badly for these plants that straggle, and I just let them linger, and I should just pull them out.
I know. Sometimes I feel that way too. I feel like, oh, the poor little pea plant. But once they're not producing very well, at some point they have to go. And I'm trying to plant, I've tried winter squash on the trellis, which has been not that successful because I've been feeling too bad about pulling my peas out. And this year we're going to grow pole beans. We've never grown pole beans before. So I'm going to need the trellises for the pole bean. It's a matter of needing the trellis. I used to grow them on the fence. We had a wire deer fence and it worked great. But the deer fence we have now, It's a beautiful fence, but it's wire on the bottom and plastic deer fencing on the top. And the person who put it in said we shouldn't be growing a lot of vines on it because we're going to wreck the fence. So.
Don't you get deer browsing on the other side though?
What?
Don't you get a lot of deer browsing from the other side?
The fence?
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad with the peas. I don't know why. There's other things that, oh, I know why. Because in the early spring, the deer are back in the woods having more little garden eaters. Every year I become lulled into the idea that the deers aren't as bad because they're raising up babies. And then in the summer, early, like that June, July, you'll notice the does are out with their fawns and they're teaching them to eat. So the peas are out during the deer lull.
Okay, makes sense.
Does everyone, how many people here have eaten the leaves of the pea plants? Hmm? Yeah. I know the Chinese name for them because apparently they eat them in China. And so, but especially the tender ones are really good to eat. So that could be another consideration as far as, but the one year I was at the community garden, I remember, I think I learned this either from Sarah, I think maybe it was from Sarah. When it's time to be ruthless, it's time to be ruthless. So if it's time for those peas to come out, just take them out. Also, last year, Steve mentioned he used some product on his peas and beans, and he tested it. So one he used and one he didn't, and it basically helps them fix nitrogen, is what it is. But it also helps the plants grow bigger. What is the product I'm talking about?
It's an inoculant.
Yeah. So he did that experiment. And he said the inoculant really works.
Mm-hmm.
It makes for bigger plants and more peas and beans. So if you're planting peas and beans, check out the inoculants.
Steroids.
And just a little note on that stuff. I've been with my husband just trying to gather and collect all the things that we're going to use for the garden now to try to get some of this stuff done, because so many people, I mean, we all remember what happened last year, right? You couldn't find potting soil at a certain time. It was much harder to get nutrients and stuff. So we're definitely looking forward. And like we ordered some fish emulsion and kelp the other day, and just same thing with potting soil. We've already picked up a bunch of our stuff. So just throwing that out there.
Speaking of kelp, Steve, I got something from Steve. He had a leaf blower for sale, which I would never use use a little bit for leaf blowing, but mostly for shredding leaves because it works in reverse and you can catch them and shred them. And he was moving to Florida, and so he sold me his leaf blower for just $40. I'm actually trying to resell it. I'll auction it off if somebody will donate the money to the garden if somebody wants it. Starting price of $40, but that's another discussion. So while I was there getting it, he had this huge bag of kelp. And he said, here, I'll give you some, but you just need a little bit. He gave me enough to fit like a grocery bag. And I just taken this out so I can show it on camera. Nicole, how do you use kelp?
We use it as a fertilizer, and it's liquid when we do it. A little bit goes a long way. It's a concentrate. And we just mix it in with water, and I'll go around every so often and give the soil a little bit of a boost to try to replace. I haven't used it in form like that, Michael. I'm sorry.
Oh, and what kind of a boost does it give?
Oh, it adds, well, you could think about like what the C adds, right? It's definitely some sort of, you know what? I can't even speak. My husband, Andrew's all about that stuff. But I know we do fish emulsion and kelp. He's a big proponent, and we had such beautiful results last year in the garden with feeding the soil that. I wish I was home. I'm not. I'd ask him to come on camera. Let's see if I can look it up.
Folks, I see we're past the 8:30 mark now. So we'll be ending soon. Are there any last questions for the month?
Thank everyone. I appreciate it. I
Thank
recorded
you.
this to the
Thank
cloud.
you.
That was good to do that to the cloud.
Sure, I can, maybe it will rain down from the cloud and I can
Capture it. Thank you all for coming. It was a great session. I appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Stay safe,
See you,
everyone.
Maria and Peter. See you Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. See you
Take care, everyone.
Wednesday.
Good night.
Good night.